everybody talks about success and everybody thinks that they want success, but I disagree. I think what people want is significance. And in order to be significant, all you need to do is turn around wherever you are. There's a person who you could literally bless. And everyone's consumed with how to change this thing and this big thing. It's like, you're going to be met on your path with 6 or 7 individuals every day who you have no clue how much of an impact you can make for them. I'll give you a story. This summer, my father passed away, and it was very sad and very beautiful because the hospice room is filled with a lot of love and a lot of faith. And he had a lot of faith. So that was there was a lot of beauty in that week, even though there was a lot of pain. And a week after he died, I went out with my family, like a week after we went through, sitting Shiva and everything. And we're sitting at this restaurant, and I was feeling kind of heavy. And I decided, you know what? The best way to feel better is to do something for a stranger. So I turned to this couple sitting next to us and I said, can I buy you dessert? And the woman's like, yeah, that's really sweet. We're on our first date. I go, great. So I buy them dessert. She asked me for my social media so she can text me. So she texts me 2 hours later. Thank you so much for the dessert. That was so nice of you. I said to her, oh, of course. I said, are you going to go on another date? And she's like, I don't know. We'll see. She said, but what you don't know is that I'm a widow. And she said, this is my first date in 5 years. And I'm telling you, she said, when you did that, no one's ever bought me dessert. And I knew my late husband sent you because he's telling me he's giving me the love and permission to do this again. And she's only 45. And it breaks my heart. And I said to her, I have chills all over my body right now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And watch this. I said, what's crazy? That was my first night out since several weeks of being in the hospital, then hospice, then my dad died. And I said, my dad died on July 3rd. And she said, you know what? My husband died July 3rd, 5 years ago. Now, there is no mathematical equation that makes that possible, except that what if God has put his signature on every moment of your life? And it's like an Easter egg that you can find when you decide to open your heart for no reason other than you are the recipient of that blessing. You are the recipient. So if the truth is that all we want is significance, really, we all have to sit with that for a second, because the world has sold us a lie, which says the only way you will feel whole within is if you achieve more or have more piles of stuff. Well, then guess what? It never ends. There's never enough stuff and there's never enough achievement. But if what really makes you feel whole is your level of significance every day, then when you change the ladder to not being on the wall of materialistic things or achieving things or externalizing things, but what's happening within you that you could give to somebody, that you're walking around with a treasure, right? Next thing you know, every day you're singing yourself to sleep. And you really think about the legacy you want to leave in your life, right? You want to leave that legacy. And it's amazing, because if I went through every single thing that's ever happened to me, it literally happened from the power of, connecting with a person in a moment for no reason other than it feels good to do so. I mean, when you and I were first talking before we hit record officially, you said, how'd you get into the music business? And I said to you, when I moved to LA, I had this little whisper of, I want to write music. And long story short, it's such an interesting thing, but I had no money when I moved here, and I got a job on Craigslist, right, just to pay the bills. And I said to myself, there's a hotel in Beverly Hills where you could go for $200 for a massage and sit there and enjoy it and taste the tea and smell the eucalyptus. And I said, I'm going to do that. And my friend said to me, that's so irresponsible. You can't afford it. I go, you can't afford not to be in those environments. So I go there, and who's sitting in the lobby? President of a record label. And we start talking. He goes, well, send me your music. My music was okay. And I got the record deal. You know what I'm saying? But eventually I actually got dropped from that label. I went to a different label. Long story short, I wound up leaving the music business. And a friend of mine says, you should get a real job and give up your dream. And I said, what's a real job? She goes, you got to make money. You got to work in commercial real estate. So I get a book on commercial real estate, go to the Cheesecake Factory to meet my friend for lunch, waiting in a long line. It's like 40 minutes on waiting. And the guy in front of me waiting in line goes, you're reading about real estate? I go, yeah. He goes, we start talking. He goes, you have a good personality, you have good energy. I go, you have good energy. He goes, I own $1 billion of shopping centers. Why don't you just come work for me? I go, okay. 2 days later, I have a job. I go work for this guy. I work for him for 2 years. He's awesome. He's Italian Catholic. We get along really well. He's got all this prayer stuff going on. He was also going to the Kabbalah Center a little bit, which has never been my thing. I don't know. I'm a little freaked out by it. But anyway, I liked him a lot. I really connected with him. I worked with him for 2 years, and I watched him making $100 million deals. Where? On the golf course. Where? At the Lakers game. He was a blessing to people. He would, if someone said they needed a blender, he ordered them the blender. If someone said their grandmother was sick, he calls later. He goes, Bobby, what's up with your grandmother? I watched how he did $100 million deals. It had nothing to do with real estate or cap rates or returns on investments, or it was all about him, his blessing, the way he talked to people. By the way, he went to Wharton and he was roommates with Donald Trump, which is a funny story. But anyways, so I like love this guy. So 2 years later, I said to him, I did not come to the world to work in real estate, but you've been a blessing. I got to go back into the music industry somehow, because my rabbi said to me, imagine going to a vending machine. You want to go get some chips or a Coke and it says out of service. He goes, no one wants to be out of service. He goes, what you've got right now is golden handcuffs. You like your boss, you like your job, but you didn't move out to LA to not use your voice. You got to use your voice. So at that time, I didn't think one day I'd be coaching and speaking and writing books. I thought music, right? That's what I know how to do, is write a good song. So I left that job and I started using my gifts of, now I knew how to cold call investors. I started cold calling McDonald's, Target. Do you need music? What is it? I started writing music for TV shows and ads and film, and it was a blast. I did that for 10 years. I got married, had my kids. And eventually, one of my songwriting friends said, you should start a podcast. Her husband worked for Adam Carolla. I had a breakfast. They said, bada bing, bada booms, try this, do this. I'm like, all right, no one's going to listen to me. The podcast overnight had 1 million downloads and 50 million downloads. It made $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. Next thing I know, I'm like, well, I'm making a comfortable $5 million a year doing a podcast and writing books. I'm like, this is the best gig ever. And then I realized God did tell me to use my voice, but in a way that was so much cooler than writing music, because the songs I wrote for Grey's Anatomy and Dawson's Creek, they're cool songs. I like them. You know, sometimes you're walking through the grocery store, you'll hear some of my songs. But the end of the day is, today I get to use my voice to help other people find their voice, right? My podcast is like, I don't know, in the top 10 of like all spiritual podcasts. And I get to have conversations with people like you and Deepak Chopra and Tony Robbins. And the conversation is really about helping people find what's within them, right? So sometimes God gives you a breadcrumb, and if you let go and surrender how it has to look, it's so much better. It's so much better than anything it would have been if you would have just white knuckled it, you know, and tried so hard to get it to be your way. And I look back and it all makes perfect sense, right? It all makes perfect sense, but I had to let go of what I thought it had to look like. And every single step along the way came from relationship building. And it came from not pressuring the moment to be something, but just being in the moment, talking to a person online. The best compliment you can get is, I love your energy, right? And when you're walking around the world like that, the amount of things that become magnetized to you are infinite. It's hard to put in words.
You're just attracting. And it's so interesting to me, because when I think about this, it does take a little bit of trust, right? A lot of trust, a lot of faith. And it's powerful. But when you're putting that good energy out in the world, you are the energy that you put out into the world. So if you're putting that great energy out there, you're receiving all of that back. If you like clips like this, I have a similar clip here. And if you want to watch the full video, click here.